So today we have with us two of the three Earthwatch Expedition recipients. This is an award that is sponsored by Joan Thuebel, the class of 52, who herself, she's been sponsoring this award for 18 years. She herself has been on over 20 expeditions. She's been on 27 expeditions. She sponsors 3 expeditions each year. It's an application process of which, Denise and I just talked, said sometimes there's between 3 and 15 applicants each year to go on these expeditions. So we have the students with us today, 2 of the 3 that were awarded, and then the third, who couldn't join us today, has sent her, some pictures and a little write-up about her trip to Denise, who will share that with us. So joining us today is Olivia Henneman. She's the class of 2027, and Nicole Sanchez Downey. She was the class of 20, now a graduate student. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Olivia, who can tell you a little bit more about herself, and then she'll tell us all about her expedition.
Okay.
Joan wanted, I'm so sorry, Joan wanted to say a few words before we got started. I'll turn it over to Joan first, and then we'll turn it over to Olivia. I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrea.
Cool.
I started in 1980 on the very first project, and it happened, I didn't know anything about Earthwatch, but a friend of mine, in fact, a roommate at Wilson in Princeton, said, take a look at this brochure. It might be interesting. And I said, no, okay. So I looked through it, and I said, well, it is interesting. And there was a project on an island off Georgia, our Georgia, that is. And it was about raccoons. And I thought, oh, that would be fun. So the problem was that we had already taken our vacations. So I said, well, I guess we have to wait till next year. So 1980 came along, and there was a project. That one was not in the book at all, was not there. It had finished. And so we took a look, and there was one on Barbary apes in Gibraltar. And we decided, you know what? Let's go. And we went in January, which was deliberately set up because that happened to be the meeting and the breeding time. So they were anxious to see who was breeding with whom and so forth and so on. So that started it. And after that, I thought, you know what? This is a good idea. I think I'll just go on some others. So they've ranged from everything in Borneo. That was another project with animals, which happened to be my favorite. And that was with orangutans. But over the 27, I would say they were all animal projects in various places, various types of animals, and or plants, as it happened. And I think there were 5 that were archaeology, which I also enjoyed, but it was the creatures that really got to me. So over this period of time, as I say, I've been all over the world. And the beauty of Earthwatch, I think, certainly that you are helping to get information for the researchers, but also that you end up going to places that you wouldn't be able to go to in most places. In other words, they were not open to tourists in many of the spots. And so I think that there's a dual thing there. You get to do some wonderful experiences in some wonderful countries, but you're also helping to do the research. So that's why when I was unable to go anymore, because now I'm 95 and I'm not going on Earthwatches because you have to do some work. And I would never go on one and not work. I mean, that would just not be in the book at all. So it's good for me to be able to see that other people can go in my place. So happy days to you and Happy New Year. Oops, I can't hear you.
I said, oh yes,
Happy New Year. There you are. Now you're
back. Thank you so much, Jen. All right, Olivia, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, I'm Liv. I'm a junior here at Wilson, and I'm actually a dual major, so I'm studying biology and vet nursing, and with the hopes to get into research. I went on the Tracking Sharks and Rays expedition, and which was really cool for me because ever since I was really little, I've been fascinated with sharks. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen Shark Week. Like, my family would host giant parties for that. I've always loved the stuff that they do, and I always found it so interesting how important to the ocean they are. So I was really excited to go on this trip. It was definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity for me, and I made so many connections with different researchers. They actually asked me to come do an internship with them over the summer, so that might be something that I'll do. We'll see. But I do have a few pictures. I can tell you a little bit about it. Okay, share my screen. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see that? Are you able to see the slideshow?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see it? Perfect. Okay. Can you see this pop-up
Yeah, we
in
can
the
see that too.
corner? Okay,
Yeah.
let me get it. Okay, is that better?
Yep, that's perfect. And then, yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. I have to figure out how to do this.
And now we see you,
Okay.
which is fine. Seeing you is
Wait,
fine.
you see me? Okay, you can see me. You can
Yep,
see the
we can see
pictures.
just you and then your screen as well.
Okay,
Yep, it's
perfect.
perfect.
Okay, so these pictures, this one on the left is from the boat that we were on, and then this was outside the like research complex. Um, it was the old aquarium, but it shut down, and now it just has the research complex, and they built a new aquarium. This was in Sarasota, Florida, by the way. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And basically, what we did, I went on what's called the Large Shark Survey. So we took a boat out and we set up drum lines at each mile marker for 10 miles. And then we would do that twice a day and we would go back and check the lines to see if we got sharks. So, oh, here's a better picture of the boat, which was kind of awesome. There were two researchers on it. There was the guy who was the head of the shark research program, Dr. Chapman, and then there was actually a dolphin researcher on the boat too. So that was super cool. And I got to help her with some stuff, which I can talk about that. So this was outside of the lab, where we got on the boat. Pretty cool stuff. The captain actually taught me how to drive the boat, so that was really awesome. So, okay. So like I said, we would set up drum lines, and then once you would pull up the drum lines, and then you could feel like the tug, and that's how you knew that there was a shark on. And what we'd have to do is kind of like walk the shark to the side of the boat and tie it up, and then you'd have to tie its tail up. So can you guys see my mouse, my pointer moving around?
Yes.
So this right here is the tail rope. So we would tie up the shark and we would put it in, we would flip it, and it's called tonic immobilization. So basically, like the shark is like hypnotized and it can't move, which is something really cool so that we can actually work with it. And we were really fast and efficient with the process. We got really good at it because there are mortality problems that can happen, but we did not have any issues with that. So I got to tie up the shark, and then we got to tag them. There were two different kinds of taggings. We got to measure them. We would take a sample from their fin for like a genetics testing. And then because I'm actually in the vet nursing program, I got the really cool opportunity to take blood from a shark. So this is me. You can see a couple different images. And what you would do is you would go right under the anal fin and then you would go straight up and down and you were able to actually take blood. And I was the only one who got to do that because I have experience with it from being at Wilson. So that was really awesome. Um, and then middle image was me taking the pH of the water because we also did water testing. So that was cool. And then we also looked at the turbidity of the water. Here's more images. This is the tail rope. This is a picture of me tagging the shark here in the middle. You can't really see it well, but you would take basically like this wooden thing, and it had a needle on the end with the tag attached, and you would stick it under the dorsal fin, and it would come up, and there would be a tag in it. This picture on the right is me measuring the shark, and then this image on the left is actually, we were doing a different kind of tagging. This was a pretty big shark. I think it was 8 feet. So with the bigger sharks, we did something called acoustic tagging, where the dolphin researcher would make an incision in the abdomen and place an acoustic tag in the abdomen and stitch it up. So this was me. I actually got to restrain the shark for her. It was pretty funny because like I was tiny compared to these sharks, and I'm like hanging over the boat restraining this 8-foot shark. It was really cool. I was super into it. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that I did on the boat. And then some of the research that they were doing. So the thing that's really cool, I think, about this project is, and about Moat Marine Laboratory in general, is that they're doing this work all over the world. So they go to different countries, and they train people to set up cameras. So on the left, you can see this computer screen. This is a nurse shark, and we got to watch film and actually take data from some of the film that they were doing that will be contributed to the research that they're doing. So that was really cool. They actually have another project through Earthwatch that is the same one as this, but it's in Belize. So it's like, and it's with Dr. Damien Chapman's PhD student. So that's really awesome to me, and something that hopefully maybe I can experience someday. And then some in-house research that they were doing was actually testing different shark repellents. So they had these baby sandbars they rescued. The mom had them, I forget how exactly it happened, but in Florida, like after 30 days, you have to either keep them or euthanize them if they're in captivity. So they didn't want to euthanize them, so they kept them. They're using them for this research for the shark repellent. And basically what it is, it's like this metal thing that lets off like electrical signals and messes with the shark's receptors on the outside of their like faces. So this is me swimming with the baby sandbar sharks that they were using for this research, which was awesome. This is a video, I think. Um, this was incredible. I absolutely loved it. Like dream come true. And so I don't know, like we'll see. We'll see if I get into this in the future. I would absolutely love that. Um, but yeah, that was my project. So that is all the pictures I have. Did it work? Okay.
Mhm.
I'm back.
Does anybody have any questions for Liv? What time of year when did you go?
I went in December.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was kind of crazy. I finished finals. I finished my last final on Friday, and I left Saturday morning.
And how long were you there for?
I was there for a week.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It was really cool.
Were you ever scared?
Honestly, I thought I was gonna be, but I wasn't. Like, I was just fully into it. Like, I definitely, the nice thing about my trip, because it was in December, we only had two other volunteers with us. Like, we only had two other people go. And I will definitely say, like, out of the three of us, I was definitely the one, like, in it. I was doing everything. I was like, you want me to do this? Okay, like, I'm in.
Yeah,
It was really awesome.
that is awesome. That's cool. You have so many pictures too. Who took the pictures? Were they just took pictures for you? Yeah.
Some of I mean, we all took pictures of each other. Like
Yeah,
the some of the people who worked there who were on the boat were taking pictures. So yeah, it was pretty
great.
cool.
Is that was that Dr. Chapman that you can see in a lot of pictures with you?
Um, I think he was in some of them. Well, no, actually, he's not in any of these pictures. I do
Oh,
have picture. I can send you more pictures if you
oh,
would
that's
like.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, it was really awesome. I'm very grateful that I was able to have this opportunity for sure.
awesome.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you again for sharing. I think you have class, don't you?
I do. I have to get going because I have microbiology.
Yes. Fun, fun. Well, thanks again, and I will now turn it over to Nicole.
Great. Thank you
Thank
guys
you,
so
Liz.
much.
Thank you.
All right. Hello. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. I'm Nicole Sanchez Downey. As Andrea said earlier, I am a Wilson undergrad, but I'm also back at Wilson again because I am pursuing my post-baccalaureate secondary teaching certification because I am now a high school teacher. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in just a second. Give me one. Hopefully you guys can see it. So tiny.
That's perfect.
Okay, on your side. Okay, perfect. So, restoring habitats in the greater Masai Mara was my trip. And I went in July. So, a little bit about me. I did graduate from Wilson in 2020 with a bachelor's in animal studies with minors in biology and studio art. I also was the 2019 Earthwatch recipient and went to Asia and to track Asiatic wild dogs in Thailand. So that's our group picture from that Earthwatch trip. And then when I graduated from Wilson, I was an educator at the Maryland Zoo for about 3 years, where my job was to talk to the public about conservation and animals and things like that. I would go to schools, libraries, and present animals, and be like, "This is a red-tailed hawk," and then I tell you a little bit about it. So, in the top picture, you can see a species called an okapi. This was during our summer camp times, and we got to feed them with the campers, which was really fun. But now I'm back at Wilson because I am now a high school biology and environmental science teacher at Southwestern School District in Hanover. And so, which is also where I went to high school. So it's kind of a full circle. I'm back at Southwest and I'm back at Wilson, which are two things I never thought would happen. Um, so a little bit about the project. We were in Kenya. The conservancy was called Enarau, and it's about 2 hours north of the actual Masai Mara National Park that some are familiar with. And I was there from July 6th to the 14th, so I was there for about 12 days. And so the project's focus was a lot of ecological degradation. The land that we were trying to restore previously was heavily farmed and destroyed from their agricultural practices. They have a lot more primitive tools that really dig deep into the ground, unlike some of the stuff that you might see here in the US. And so the land isn't able to recover quite on its own without human intervention. So a lot of what we were doing was a wide range of tasks, actually in order to kind of protect and fix some of the landscape. So we would go out and work on some of the landscape stuff, which included like going and counting plants and things like that. We would go and do bird, mammal, and butterfly surveys, which entailed we would stop like 5 times along a transect, like a straight line of, I think it was about 5 kilometers, and there'd be a kilometer between each dot. So we would stop for 10 minutes, we would stand in a circle, and we would note every single bird that we saw or heard and write it down. And then mammal, same thing. However, that one was not as successful because the only mammals we ever saw were cows and goats, so of the local farmers. We never, unfortunately, or zebras. We never really saw any other more enticing animals that you would typically see or think you were going to see. And then we did a butterfly survey, and where we kind of just were looking at all the different species in the area. The reason that one was important is because butterflies are a really big pollinator, and because of the invasive species removal and like the restoration projects that we were doing, seeing what kind of butterflies were there kind of gave them information of like what plants and things and like the health of the area that they're restoring. One of the main activities that we did was something called jambaying. A jambay is the tool that you see pictured. It's just like a hoe, but you swing it through kind of like at your shins, which feels very dangerous. Because if you don't actually catch the ground, you're gonna get a nice metal blade to the shins. So not super fun. But this cleared path you see, we did that. And these are 2 meter width paths, and they made a grid. So the thought behind this was that the invasive species of the plants would have a slightly harder time traveling without any vegetation in those paths. And then that was my group for the jambaying. We also did some greenhouse work. So they had a makeshift greenhouse, and not like ours again. It's a netting that was green, not with windows, but they don't have to worry about temperatures as much there. So what we were doing in this is we were creating soil bags so that they could start making seedlings inside their greenhouse. So in the bottom picture, you can see we're filling the bags. We would do that a lot. We would spend many hours. And so the top picture was one of the rainy days we couldn't go out in John Bay because it was too messy. And we filled all those bags that you can see that don't have green with them, which I think was about 400 bags that we did in 4 hours, which was a lot. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it was it was a lot. Um, and then the one night we came back from one of our mammal surveys, and there were monkeys breaking into the greenhouse, stealing some of our products. So just kind of being silly, and it was funny because everyone was like, I stayed to watch them because I was the animal freak of the group, and so I would just watch them because I think they were being silly. And they're like, they're just being monkeys. And like uh, the locals don't realize the cool biodiversity that they have. And like, it's like if we see white-tailed deer and a squirrel and like, it's just a marmot monkey. So, we also had absolutely delicious food. And part of this was, so our researchers are part of the Maasai culture, and they are a very generous group of people, and they spent a lot of time thinking through our meals and like putting on different lectures for us. And we did have like one of the guys was our waiter, but he was like so excited to share their food. They're like they would come out and they would tell us what every ingredient or like what everything was made of, and it was like some really really good food. Also, while I was there, a lot of you may be thinking, oh, it's Africa, it's warm all the time. So where I was in was a little bit higher elevation. So most of my time there, it was the lowest was like 47 the one morning and like a high of 70. So it was actually quite chilly. And so almost every day we had some type of like soup, porridge, or chili, which was really yummy. So here's some pictures of the research task. So up here, can you guys see my mouse? Okay, so up in this picture, we were collecting seeds for them to build something called a herbarium, which is where like it's basically an archives of all the seeds in the area that they can maybe propagate in the future or things like that. So that's what's happening up in this picture. Down here in the bottom picture, I'm holding up a sight tool. So it's to measure the distance from the animal that we were looking at to from our location on our transect. And then other people had other jobs that they would record. In this picture, when we did some of our land surveys, we would measure out and then we would count all the plants and literally go down every 2 inches on on the tape measure and say what's the closest woody plant or shrubby plant or grassy plant. That was not my favorite activity. It was a little bit tedious, and they only knew the scientific names, the researchers, which were very hard to communicate to with some of the like accents. So writing them down became kind of hard. But by the end, we became experts. This top picture is we were doing a survey, and one of the group researchers caught me being distracted by the children that you see in this picture. I was waving to them, not paying attention. And then the cows at the bottom, this was kind of our everyday cycle with the research. They were just constantly around us because they don't really do fences. They're just free roaming with a farmer. And this cow that's staring into your soul is, um, it was funny because, and again, I'm an animal lover, so I think all animals are adorable and are doing silly things. We had come across this group of cows. We were doing a bird survey, and they all were trying to listen for birds, and they all have cowbells. So it's just, you just hear cowbells, you don't hear birds. And they all like are at first startled by us and kind of like stop in their tracks. Well, this one like never trusted us the whole time. And like all the others went back to eating, moving around, and this female, she just like stared at us the whole time and didn't move. Um, and like the lighting just was kind of ominous. So it's one of my favorite pictures, even though it's just a cow. And then into the biodiversity. Kenya and the Greater Masai Mara, it's an attachment to the Serengeti ecosystem. And this is one of the most biodiverse locations on Earth. I think it's over 250 species of birds. And so these birds, majority of these ones on this slide are from our bird surveys, like while we were out and about, with a few exceptions. Up in this corner was an eagle, which was from our like recreation day where we got to have a free day where we went on safari. But yeah, so lots of birds, lots of colorful birds. The one, actually, I'm gonna go back for a second. This brown one here at the bottom, I was really excited to see because this is a bird that I used to work with at the zoo. And so to be able to spot them in the wild was just like a really cool connection moment. They are they build the largest nest of any bird in Africa. Like it's like 40 pounds of just sticks, and they build this like whole encasement. And most people are surprised to find that out because they're such a tiny bird. So it was kind of cool to see it just grooming itself at a pond. And then here are some more birds. Again, this one down here was a really cool spotting. I have also worked with these at the zoo, and I did not expect at all to see this. This is a southern ground hornbill. They're about 3 feet tall, or sorry, 2.5. But they are predators, and they actually like eat meat, but they don't fly very good. But they're a very cool species. So that was um, something on my bucket list that I didn't know was on my bucket list. So yeah. A lot of people notice this one up in the top corner. This is a lilac-breasted roller. This was a really cool spot because they look like they've been watercolor painted. And he was just hanging out in a bush while we were watching the wildebeest migrate across the river, which you'll see in a minute. Some more birds, some vultures, some storks. Again, another really cool spotting. I knew this one and our guide did not. And they were like, how do you know what this species is? Again, I worked with it at the zoo, but it was really cool because they had a baby. So this is a lappet-faced vulture, and they're massive. It was just a really cool experience. And then this was wow, this was on our last day. We were safaring actually in the Masai Mara. And like warning, there's a carcass in the video. However, we came across this hyena that was eating on a wildebeest, and there was a bunch of vultures in the area, and they kind of like pushed it out at one point. But when we got there, there was about 40 vultures. And then the hyena came back in, swooped in, and was like, "That's my meal." And they all kind of went away. And this was so cool to watch. Um, besides a little bit of goriness, but uh and this happened a couple times. So the hyena would go off and then get scared away, and then it'd come and be like, "That's for me." So that was a really cool experience. Here are some of the mammals that we got to see. Lots of antelope, a white rhino. Now, this white rhino was not just out freely in the wild, it was under guard because of poaching being a concern. And then we got to see a jackal, which he just ran right past our vehicle, which was a really cool experience. This is a small antelope called a dik-dik. Uh, our very happy looking warthog. And the one big focus of this trip was the wildebeest. So I had mentioned earlier, I'm a high school biology teacher. In my biology course, we talk about the Serengeti ecosystem as a way to teach the kids about the ecological relationships and all those fun things. So the wildebeest migration is a big focus of that curriculum. And so a big reason why I asked to go on this trip was for the wildebeest. And so we got to see a lot of them up close, which was really cool. And then these are usually crowd favorites, your lions. So we had this younger male lion that we watched for probably 30 minutes, and all he did was lay there, and he clearly had just had a meal because he was panting, and it was 50 degrees, so it was not warm at all, and his belly was like very round and just but he was very charismatic. So he laid there for a while and then we were going to leave and then he got up. And in this picture over here, he's yawning and just giving everyone a show. And then he did the big cat plop on the side and side. And it was just, it was very fun to watch them be themselves. And then we went to leave and then we got a call because the guides all kind of talked to each other that there were females in the area. And right near where that we were watching this male off that you can't in this picture, there were hundreds of wildebeest and zebras because this time again is the migration and these female group was coming in to clearly go for a snack is what we were thinking. So we got to see them and see some cubs, which was really cool because they were starting to get some of their independence. They were doing some of their own things. Like at one point, they found a carcass, which I don't have it in my slides. And some of them got spooked away because of some people, other visitors not being respectful. And so they kind of got spooked away. And this one baby cub was like, all right, see, I got the whole wildebeest to myself and was just still chowing down. So that was kind of cool. Here we got to see prior to them finding the carcass already. We got to see the lion start a hunt. However, then they must have found a carcass already. So you'll see the female come here. She comes into screen and she's kind of she's mapping it out, trying to see if there's any weak links that she can kind of strategically move around. And so she wasn't successful. They had a head start and they were able to get too far away that she couldn't catch up. However, then they found said meal. So it worked out in the end. Here are some even more animals that I had seen. One of my other favorite experiences, this young hyena was like approaching a road to pass, and we happened to be there. And he like was very curious, and like there was only 3 of us for this part of the trip, and you could see him sniff each person in the vehicle because our windows were all open. And so like he like made eye contact, sniff, made eye contact, sniff, made eye contact, sniffed, and it was very, I don't know, it was just a very like connecting kind of experience. Like, here's this baby hyena just sniffing me to like, some enrichment. So we saw lots of babies in this blob of hippos. There's a baby hippo, which is like apparently not heard of to be seen during the day, which is what our researchers told us. So that was a really cool experience to be able to see this little baby hippo. And it's true that like moms can't ever get a break because the baby hippo was like chomping on the ear of the one it's now resting on, but just like chewing on its ear like a little chew toy. So even in the other animals, it can be like that. And then I would say probably the highlight, it's hard to pick a single highlight because to be honest, I love all animals and like I saw so many cool things, but this was probably one of the most cool experiences, and I managed to get it on film. So we had, right after we left the lines, we got word there was a cheetah in the area, and it was a single male by himself, which is pretty common in the cheetah world. But he was like resting, just hanging out, and so these pictures with the grass over his face, we couldn't really see him. So he had been laying there, and we decided, okay, we're gonna move on. And like at that point, we were gonna eat breakfast. So we unwrap our breakfast, and then they're like, "Oh, he's getting up! He's getting up!" So then we were like, okay, and we go to watch, and again, the wildebeest and zebras are all right there, and so we got to see him hunt and be successful. So up until this point, you could see him like watching and pick his victim, his prey, and then we got to see the takeoff and the chase, and he follows the one young wildebeest off to the side. And then we're about to lose him because my driver then gassed it and I went like this, and so you don't get to see the rest of the video. However, the cheetah was successful. So what I did not realize I'm going to go back for a second, is he was an older male. So when we were watching him before, I couldn't really tell. But then once I like was able to look back at my pictures, um, I don't know if you can see in this picture down here at the bottom, his canine bottom teeth are, the one is broken and the other one has been worn down to almost nothing. He also, his one ear is like almost completely gone, and this one had some injuries to it. So he is in some rough shape there. But that was really cool to be able to see him be successful, and he was a healthy weight for being as old as they thought he was. So then skipping ahead a little bit, the migration. Okay, so this is the part that I said was kind of like why I went. So the part of the river that we were at was on the smaller side. So there wasn't any crocs, there weren't any hippos. So it wasn't those big like Nat Geo exciting videos. And what I also came to realize is that wildebeest are little chickens. One of them, they were crossing the river. One of them like slipped in the water and scared themselves, and they all like ran out of the water and refused to cross the river for another 2 hours. And like were so afraid to cross. And then again they began to cross a little bit later. So here you can see, and then again, this was a situation where they got spooked at crossing the river straight across, so they started running down the river. And it was like, oh, that's not very safe if this was a croc river, but they are a prey animal. They don't use a lot of logic. But this was a really cool. And it sounded like it was raining because of the hooves in the water. And then it's hard to see, but at the very top you can see a ton of wildebeest, thousands and hundreds, and the sounds. And then here are the zebras finishing the surge. But the noises, they're calling to each other, hey, come over, and things like that. So apologize for my school bell. And then a little bit, I'm going to pop back to our research for a second. We did a lot of camera traps as well during this time, so we were able to catch a couple different things. So the hyenas coming right up to the camera and kind of posing and being silly. Another kind of another connection for me is this camera trap, even though it doesn't seem like a whole lot, you see just a tail with some stripes on it. Was another connection to an animal that I worked with at the zoo, which, oh, I went too far. I added here this is a zoo picture, to show you what the animal looks like at the end of this tail. This is called a genet. They are in the civet family, very elusive, super skittish, like, so to be able to catch that little bit of tail on the camera trap was a really, to be there while they did that was cool for me, especially because I've got to work with Janet, the genet at the zoo. But yeah, and then one other thing that I found when I was building this presentation is, and I didn't know it was caught on camera, is I was teaching our researchers how to juggle these giant seed pods while we were taking a little bit of a break from our research task. So it got caught on camera. And I think that's all the pictures there is a slight video of them trying it out. The first time he did try, he almost threw the seed at my head. So, but anyways, I know we're getting a little short on time, so I want to open it up for any questions. And I know that that's a lot of information, but when you're there for 12 days, a lot of things happen. So I apologize if I was talking a little bit fast.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah,
I think your photography was great, but I was
thank
interested in
you.
this invasive species, the plant, why it was there, where it came from.
So a lot of the invasives from we didn't spend a ton of time talking about that as much because by the time that we had got there in the research, they had already done a big portion of removal. We were in the kind of the mediating steps. However, from my understanding is it was coming from the farming that the people were doing prior to this area being reclaimed for the conservancy, and they were bringing in crops from other regions that were contaminated and not using the best farming practices. So that's how the invasives were introduced.
Thank you. That's typical. Bringing
Yes.
something in. I mean, we in this
Yes.
country have had lots of them.
Well, and in this area, there is a lot of cultural influences that, with some of that, with like not accepting outsiders' information. And so people saying, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't use those practices or those crops. Well, it's cheap, I'm going to use it, and this is how I'm
Yeah.
going to use it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions? Even if it's an animal or
How many people were on your trip?
So there were 8 participants total, and it was a wide variety of people. There was another biology teacher that she was from Chicago, but she was teaching in London. We had a math teacher that was teaching in China, and then we had like a grandson, you can see in the picture. This is James. He was the grandson. His grandfather brought him on the trip because he had been doing Earthwatches for a number of years and wanted him to experience it. And so it was a kind of a wide range of people in our group.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's a
Yeah.
fascinating trip.
Yeah. I was telling my friends, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to say all of it in 15 minutes because there's so
And
much that happened. So if there's any questions that ever come up or more things, I'm happy to share. And Joan, again, thank you so much. It was an honor to be able to go again, and experience this. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
oh, let me see if I can unmute her.
There we are.
There she is. Awesome. All right, well, I will turn it over to Denise, who I think is going to share some pictures from our last recipient.
Yes, let me. Okay. And is that good, Andrea?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Well, I am sharing Jenna's trip. She apologized she couldn't be here. She already had other travel plans for today. She studied penguins in Argentina, as you can see, the cute little Argentine penguins here in Patagonia. And her overview is that there were a variety of different studies that they performed. She had, I don't remember how many people she had on the expedition with her, but there were graduate students and researchers from all over South America, with their goal to investigate the ecological role of the penguins in the southern region of where they were. And her area was that she aided in was the study of the population productivity within a nature preserve. And other projects that were done at the same time were their behavior, their diet, the reproductive success, and other things. Penguins are just so cute. I just love all the pictures of penguins.
If I go off, I'm losing power.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will send these. We can send these. I'll send these slides to you, Joan, if we lose you, and you can look
Sure.
at it on your iPad. And she was in the Cameroons. I think that's how you pronounce it. In the red dot at the very bottom of the photo here, of the map, where there's less than about 2,000 people. Some photos that she shared of the area. I don't. Obviously, these are just for pictures for us to enjoy. Because I don't have the details of what all of these pictures are, but they surely are beautiful. Her daily schedule of trailing the penguins, they would 9 o'clock would start their day, and then they would go make their way to the nature preserve to start their research. And then right before lunch, they would hike through the different colonies, and they would find nests and basically do other things of scanning the penguins for the microchip, to decide to figure out whether they were male or female of the nest. And then of course they would take turns. The penguins would be taking turns guarding their nest and the eggs. They would record what is in the nest in their research notebook. And if there were eggs, they would note how many. They were there during the chick season, but she did not see any hatch, unfortunately. And then they would mark the penguin, which you see the egg there, whether it was blue or pink, to make it easier to figure out them the next day. And then they would pack up, head out for lunch, and then in the afternoon they would have free time and dinner. And of course, I'm sure, talk about all of the research they had during the day. This just take a minute and we can look at some of her field work. As you see the different holes where the nests are and things like that. And just walking with other researchers around the area. And obviously she thanks Wilson, of course, thanks Joan for the opportunity. She shared her email address here if anyone has any questions, because this was a very, very quick summary of her trip. Obviously she has much, much more that she can share. And she was there in November. So it was just a few months ago. She was there. I think she was there for 10 days. So if anyone has any other questions, she would invite your email to ask her. And that was her trip. But I'm sure if anyone else has been, Joan, did you ever study penguins on any of your trips?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
I saw them. I've been to the Galapagos and all, and to Antarctica, where they come right up and look you in the eye and decide, I don't think you're a penguin. Who are you?
So that
I just remember being very jealous of when I heard that that's what she was doing, because I also wanted to do that one.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody would pick which one they wanted to do. And Joan, I do have to ask you, you said the very first one you ever read about was raccoons. So did you ever get to do anything with raccoons?
Nope, never did. I don't think the project ever went again.
Oh, no, right.
Sometimes they don't. You know, there'll be They'll just have one season and then that's it. And maybe they've decided that they have had all the information they need. I don't know whether that's the reason it doesn't go or what, but
Yeah.
nope.
I have a good friend who is a wildlife rehabilitator, and raccoons is her specialty. So,
Well, I've had raccoons in my yard trying
yeah,
to attack my garbage can.
they're very interesting creatures. Very interesting.
They are cute.
Well, Nicole, I can't imagine being an animal lover and being a researcher and having your undergrad and now you're, teaching. How did you ever choose what expedition you applied for?
Yeah, so I mean, to talk a little shop, I had to be strategic of what thing could I pr make a proposal the best about. Because of course I could be like, oh, I want to do this because I love penguins. I worked with South African penguins, which live on the coast at the zoo, and they had a project, but that one was full. And then because I am a teacher, like I am in school right now, I had to pick stuff that worked with our schedule. So some of the dates of some of the projects helped eliminate some. And then the big one, I came down to two at the end. It was either going to the Arctic, because in my environmental science class, I teach about the Arctic, and it was kind of doing some habitat information, climate surveys, and I was really interested in that one. And the dates were during the school year, and I would have had to like have a sub, and because I am in classes at Wilson, I have grad classes to do. So the timing of this past summer is going to Kenya. There was no other kind of in the way, and I teach about it to my students. So it was funny though, because this fall, my students thought that they didn't realize that because I teach about this subject, I went to Africa. They thought I was teaching them about the wildebeest migration because I went to Africa, and that I was subjecting them to torture about wildebeest because I was interested. And I was like, no, this is what the school makes us teach you. So that was kind of a funny realization, because when I picked this, I was like, oh, my kids are going to take it a little bit more seriously. They're going to think it's a little bit cooler because their teacher actually went there. No, that's not full. Some kids are really into it. However, they did try to use it as a way to derail class. And they're like, oh, can't you? We should stop and you should show us some of your Africa pictures to kind of get out of class. So it's a win-win, because I still can teach them about stuff, but we're supposed to be, doing our curriculum and stuff. And I have like 4,000 photos, so I have plenty to show.
I just love that and I know this with spending so much time with Joan, I know for sure this is one of your goals, Joan, by, supporting the Earthwatch expeditions for Wilson students, is that they will not only use it in their classwork, but possibly then even after that. And this is a perfect example of learning and using it, and teaching them the next generation of learners. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like the first expedition. I used the information that I learned on that, tracking Asiatic wild dogs, so much when I was working at the zoo and we were doing conservation research. We had conservation programs because of being an institution dedicated to conservation. It also gave me a lot of talking points to be able to talk to guests visiting the zoo, because I could be like, this is how actual conservation research goes, because I've done it. And so it just was, each time I've been able to go, it's given me once in a lifetime opportunities that are super cool, but it's also given me like the foundation to be able to share the conservation education message, which is like what it's all about, especially for me, because like that was on my graduation cap and everything. Conservation education is deep ingrained, so.
And it grows and grows and
Again,
grows from person to person
and
to person.
yes. Yes, the quote that I have in my, and I turned it into a poster in my classroom, and I'm not typically someone like that's quotey. I kind of find them cheesy, but it's, in the end, we will only conserve what we love. We will only love what we understand, and we will only understand what we are taught. And like that's the motto I live by with like teaching conservation
It's a good one.
education.
Yep, absolutely.
So thank you so much for the opportunity again.
Oh,
Thank you,
you're very
Wilson, for
welcome.
letting me share this information with everybody.
Well, it's
so
my
glad
Thank you
pleasure
guys
to
for
hear,
coming to listen.
and it's my pleasure to hear all your experiences. It's great.
It is, and I'm
And
so
if you
glad
ever want to
that
hear
we
more,
recorded. Well, that's why I was just going to say, Nicole, I'm so glad that we recorded, and And if anyone wants any other information from you, Nicole, from your trips or anything, just like I said about Jenna's, reach out to Andrea and we can share. If you're okay with it, we can share your
Absolutely.
contact information.
Yeah. I mean, I love talking about this stuff, and like I know I can go in the weeds, so whatever you want to know, I probably have an answer.
Awesome. Well, everybody have a great rest of your day. Stay safe.
You too.
Yes.
Don't stock up on go fill your refrigerator and essentially get ready to batten down the hatches.
Yeah.
And Joan, I'll be in touch
Nowadays.
about our visit. I'll be in
Good.
touch.
Okay, fine.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you, Nicole.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.